Hello, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to anti-haul number 17. I can't believe I have done. This is my 17th one of these. I feel like I've been doing them forever. If you are new to my channel, hello, welcome. In these videos, I like to share with you the decks I'm not keeping and the decks I'm not going to buy. Now, typically, these are going to be decks that tempted me, that I really considered purchasing for one reason or another, or I really kind of wobbled about before finally landing on, I don't need it, or at least I don't need it right this minute. So that is the entire purpose of anti-hauls. They're sort of me talking myself down and or also reporting back on things that didn't work out or that I finally decided to let go. These might be things that I wobbled about in a this or that declutter video, or these might be just things that I just realized immediately didn't work for me or something like that. So these are things that I haven't typically covered in other videos. But with all of that said, let's get into it. So we're going to start off by talking about the decks that I'm not keeping. Now I scooted over so that I can share a picture with you because I don't have this deck anymore, and it is the Weaver's Oracle. I really struggled with keep this, don't keep this, declutter it, don't declutter it, and I did actually feature it in a this or that, and I had decided to let it go. But then I kept wobbling. So I kept going back, forth, and trying to figure it out. And I think part of that is because the Weaver's Oracle is such a unique deck that features these like wise women. The paintings are spectacular. It's really special. And the storytelling in the guidebook is really out of this world. But actually that was part of the deal breaker for me, because over time I realized that the storytelling was written in a way that I felt like it was written over my head. Like it's meant to be very symbolic and very allegorical. And it just didn't feel like it was speaking to me, if that makes sense. And so I would work with it and I would have these beautiful experiences, but they wouldn't stick. They weren't memorable in a way. I felt like I was working with a tool that was meant for somebody else. And so I decided to let it go. The thing that sort of pushed me to the point where I was like, I can let it go now, is because I found something else that I feel like will speak to where I'm at right this moment, and that is the Wisdom of the Kayak Oracle. So this is the guidebook. It's pretty simple, but I have a solution for that too. So let me show you the cards and then we'll talk about it. So this is one of the things I do like to do in these anti-hauls, is share with you not only the thing that I'm letting go of or not going to buy, but the thing that works for me instead. That's sort of, I guess, my spin on it, is like, yes, I'm not getting these things, but these are the things I like instead. So the Wisdom of the Kayak is a recent acquisition for me, and it is so stunning. It's nice big cards, but it speaks specifically to the kayak, who is a known sort of hag goddess or crone goddess sort of figure from Celtic myth. Specifically, she's very heavy in very well known in Irish and Scottish folklore. And I've been diving more into my Celtic heritage lately, my Irish and Scottish, primarily my Scottish. And so this is really speaking to me. But more than that, it's not a great many cards. And there's actually some cards in here that I feel like really sort of compete head to head with the Weavers. And that is these sort of this circle of kayak, I guess, these different versions of the kayak that you see in these cards here at the back of the deck. Now, I will have links to everything I'm talking about in this video down below. This one does go out of print, but, and I don't know if it's out of print right now or not. She may still have some stock, but the creator has been reprinting it about once a year, it seems like lately. So if you want it and it's out of stock, definitely reach out. But what I got to go with this deck is a book called Visions of the Kayak by Sarita d'Este and David Rankine, and this is what that book looks like. So this is more of a deeper dive into sort of the kayak's stories. I can't wait to get into all of this. This is really exciting to me. This is probably going to be a winter deep dive for me, and I will definitely keep you guys posted, but I have the guidebook and the deck, and I feel like this definitely scratches the itch for that sort of cronish energy. The next deck that I am not keeping, that I also no longer have in my possession, it's already off to its new home, just like the Weavers, is the Darkness of Light Tarot. This is another one that I wobbled quite a bit about. It's so beautiful and the art is gorgeous, and it is currently out of print. I would hope that the artist would be bringing it back for a reprint, but I'm not entirely sure if that's the case or not. I tried so hard to bond with this deck, and I think that if I had found it before some other things that I have and love, maybe it would have been the one for me. But it hits me in a lot of the same places that Pagan Otherworlds hit me, which is another deck that has, Pagan Otherworlds went bye-bye for me, I guess, a little bit ago now. But that's another one that hits me in those same places where it feels very artsy and very beautiful, and I can appreciate it for its artistic beauty, but it just seems to not speak directly to me. And I don't know how to quantify exactly why that is or why that happens, just that it happens. So I did let that one go, and it's off to its new home where I know it's going to be very, very well loved. So instead, and this is the deck that I think if I didn't have this deck, I probably might have been able to bond with the Darkness of Light, and it is my beloved Fountain Tarot. Now, if you have been watching my channel since the very, very beginning, or if you're brave and want to go look at my earliest videos where I didn't really have my feet under me yet, you might want to go check out the very first series I ever did was called Tarot Knockouts, and I would love to do it again. I'd love to revive it. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to do Tarot Knockouts again, but I basically took all of my decks, piled them up on my bed, and I sat in front of my window. This is where I used to film, right here in front of my window. I sat there and I went through the decks, and I would just reach behind me and I would randomly grab two, and I would put them up against each other, and I would say, you know, which of these, if I could only keep one of these two, which would I keep? And I did that like tournament style until I was down to just two. And this was actually the deck that made it the entire way through. And it's kind of a luck of the draw thing because, you know, one deck paired against one deck would lose, but against another deck would win kind of thing. So it's kind of a fun, kitschy thing to do. Mind you, I have a lot more decks now, so it would maybe be more of a beast. Maybe, I don't know. I might be... it might be in over my head. But I would love to do another collection video in general. That might be a fun way to do it. But I feel like it would take ages. Anyway, let me know though if you're interested. Maybe I can find a way to do it again. Maybe I'll do it with just a category of decks or something. But anyways, okay, back on track. So the Fountain Tarot is mass market, but it originally came out indie, and I've had this for so long. And I freaking love this deck. It's just such a good reader for me, and it has a lot of this sort of depth and masculinity that I feel like the Darkness of Light has. It's hard to describe. So I feel like it hits in the same places, but I'm bonded to this deck. I know this deck backwards and forwards. I can pull this out and read for anybody with it for any situation. And in fact, in order to make myself use the Darkness of Light when trying to figure this out, I had to put this deck, I have a rack that's hard for me to reach, where I hang the decks that are seasonal, that I like only work with at certain times of the year, or I sort of put decks and time out up there if I need to force myself to reach for something else, which I had to literally do that with this deck to use the Darkness of Light at all. Because in every situation that I would have reached for the Darkness of Light, I just wanted this. I just wanted this. And so I think in the end, this basically just won, and it just is what it is. But this deck is very well worn. It's seen a lot of use. I love it. And it's just one of those no fail sort of decks for me. And I think it's just an area where when it comes to decks like this that sort of feel like they have a more masculine bent, they feel a little more serious, but also modern, and a little bit, I mean, mind you, Darkness of Light doesn't feel modern, but I don't know why they're in the same place in my mind, why they occupy that same space, but they do, and Fountain Tarot wins. So that is what it is. So Darkness of Light is gone, and I'm keeping the Fountain Tarot, obviously. So the next deck I very, very recently decided I'm not keeping, and it makes me a little sad because it's so beautiful, is the Whispers of the Ocean Oracle. This is by Angela Hartfield. This is so pretty, and the cardstock is heavenly, and it's gorgeous, and there's a part of me that loves it, but I just didn't love working with it, which is a bummer. It's a bummer because it's so beautiful. And you guys know I love me some ocean themes, and I should, you know, part of me is like, do I keep it anyways? But I know I won't reach for this. I can't think of a category. I actually tried to work with it next to some other ocean tarots that I have, and I just got so frustrated with it that I put it away midweek, and that's not a good sign for me. So I bought it because it's so beautiful and because it has these ocean vibes, and the artwork is so watery and glittery and beautiful and sunny. I love everything about it. I love shuffling it. I love the cardstock. It's that gorgeous blue angel thick matte cardstock that I just personally really enjoy. The colors are gorgeous. It's like a trip to the ocean. It's so beautiful. But it doesn't, like, I'm looking at it now, I'm like, am I ready? But I think I am, because as pretty as it is, it's so pretty. But it feels a little bit fluffy, and it feels a little bit affirmative? Feels like an affirmation deck. That's what I'm trying to say. And so I think because it feels a little bit like that, I just don't reach for it, because there's only a few cards. There's only a few decks that I really want to use that way. And the one that I tend to go for when I'm looking for affirmations is my Affirmators Oracle, which I feel like this is so much prettier than Affirmators, but Affirmators just does the job so much better for me that it ends up being the one that I want to keep and use. So this one is going to be moving along. Pardon the traffic. It's motorcycle season and it's warm here, so you'll probably hear some vehicles. But I do have another Oceany Oracle, and this one, which I just ruthlessly put in the same bag that the other deck was in. How rude. I know, like, no loyalty, but it's a sea turtle bag, and like, it's perfect. Anyway, I have not worked with this yet, so time will tell if this one's going to be one that I ultimately enjoy. But it's an ocean themed oracle, but it feels full of depth, and that is the Ocean Dreams Oracle, which I only recently got. This is by Danielle Noel. So Ocean Dreams is really beautiful. It's very ethereal and sort of otherworldly. It feels more like a trip to the oceans of another world than the oceans of our world in a way. And ultimately, I don't yet know how it's going to work out for me. But I do have this to get to know, so I'm going to give it a try. Ocean decks might just be a category of decks where I'm just so incredibly picky that there's not going to be very many things that I'm going to really resonate with and want to work with, and that could end up being my problem. I think I have to move my fan because I am literally dying right now. BRB. Okay, that feels about a million times better, but you might be able to hear the fan because it's much closer to my physical body, but I feel like I'm not going to die now, which is great. We like that about making videos. Anyway, so I'm not keeping the Whispers of the Ocean. I am keeping Ocean Dreams for now to try to get to know it and get used to it and get familiar with it, but I'm making no promises because apparently, again, this is a category where I'm incredibly picky. So that Whispers of the Ocean, though, it didn't scratch the itch for me. It just didn't do it. The title of this next deck is a little edgy, so perhaps, you know, keep that in mind. So the deck that I'm not keeping is this one. So I went down this whole rabbit hole with Samantha West's artwork. This deck I wanted to love because it's so dang adorable. It's adorable, but it's also really edgy. It's very alien. I'm going to show you some cards, but there are some very, I would say, adult themes in here for sure. But Sam West is... their artwork is just really good and fun, and I love the color palette. I love the neon green. I was like, this might be the limited color palette that will work for me, but then this happens. And I thought I could get past the probes suit, which is the one suit, but y'all, I can't. It's not gonna happen. So I tried, but the size is cute. It's like this kind of poker sized deck. It's rock pool. I think it's really fun. I think it's got this really empowering vibe, which I love, and I wanted to love it. I couldn't get past the probes, y'all. I should have known that going in. I mean, not really my thing. But I wanted to love it because I've been loving other things by Samantha West. Speaking of which, the things that scratch the itch for not liking this one and needing to let that one go, I've got two other decks by Samantha West that I am freaking loving. The first one is the Rainbow Moon Tarot, which I have in this bag. This is such a great deck. It's so fun. It's very like queer and gender bendy and just, it's neat. I really like it. It's got this cool sort of other vibe. I love this Lovers card so much. I can't stop talking about it. But it is really pretty, funky, poppy colors, not limited color palette, beautiful holographic rainbowy edges. Hello. I mean, it's like everything. And then I got another deck by Samantha West, which I'm going to share with you, that I'm also head over heels in love with, which makes this whole thing much easier. But that is Penelope's Tarot. Now this one is indie. So Rainbow Moon Tarot, which I just showed you, is available on the mass market. But the Penelope's Tarot is only available at Samantha West's website, as far as I know. So it has backs like this. I showed it, I believe, in my show and tell for July because I just had such a great time with this deck. I really just don't want to stop reading with it. There's something about the quality of it that just, I love it. And it's limited color palette, but it's like the limited color palette is a color palette I happen to really love, which makes it amazing for me. I mean, I really love this. Between this one and the Rainbow Moon Tarot, I keep wanting to call it the Rainbow Heart Tarot, which is another deck I love, but not by Sam West. Anyways, between this one and the Rainbow Moon Tarot, my Samantha West, like, it just scratched. That sounds really weird when I say it that way. I'm just going to say I don't need the other one, the little yellowy green chartreuse one. I don't need it. I don't need the aliens. I don't need the probes. I'm good. And I still get lots of Samantha West's awesome artwork. She also did the Macabre Tarot, which was also published by Rockpool, but that one is also not my vibe. So I feel like I'm good now with Samantha West decks. But for now, because she is working on a tarot, I saw some sneak peeks on Instagram, and it looks so fun, and I'm probably going to snap that one up. But that one's a long time, like in the future. So I'm good for now. I'm good for now. So that is it for this anti-haul as far as the decks I'm not keeping. Let's talk now about the mass market decks I'm not going to buy. This month there's only one, and it is the Garbage Pail Kids Tarot. I should not have been tempted by the Garbage Pail Kids Tarot, but I have to admit I am a little bit. I didn't think I was. It's another Inside Editions deck. But the Garbage Pail Kids were like right from a time period when I was growing up. Cabbage Patch Kids, like I was a kid when the Cabbage Patch Kids came out, and the Garbage Pail Kids cards that were coming out were like an answer to the Cabbage Patch Kids situation, like a gross kind of icky version of Cabbage Patch Kids. So there's a lot of nostalgia there for me, and I thought it would have been a really fun deck. Like I can still kind of think of fun ways it could be used, but when I really sat and thought about it, I was like, do I just want this because nostalgia, or do I want this because I would really truly want to work with it as a tarot? And that's usually a question that I ask myself whenever I'm tempted, because a lot of times, whether it's nostalgia or something else, but like the real question, the meat and potatoes of it is this something I'm going to work with, or do I just want it? And with that in mind, I kind of talked myself back down, and I was like, well, what is it about it that is like enticing me energetically? And I realized it was that it kind of makes me laugh. It feels like it's got lots of humor and lightness to it. And I was like, wait, hold up, Lisa, what do you have in your collection that does that for you? And something immediately came to mind that I'm loving. And that is the Tarot of Curious Creatures, or is it the Curious Creatures Tarot? Let's check the box and find out. Tarot of Curious Creatures. So this is a deck by Chris and Donnelly. I have talked about this before. This deck, it makes me laugh. It makes me happy. I thought about doing a VR to the Good Moods Tarot tag, but the reason I haven't yet is because whenever I think of that tag, this is like the only deck I can think of for myself, which is not to say that like all of my decks put me in a good mood, but like if I wanted a deck to literally just make me laugh, this would be the one. Like there's not really anything else I feel like I would reach for. This is the one that would make me laugh. And so if I needed to be in a good mood, if I just needed a lift, I feel like this is the tarot I would pull out just for the sheer joy of it, which is not to say again that other decks don't bring me joy, but like I felt like it would have been a one deck VR. So like here it is. Here's my hashtag good mood deck. And this gives me all of the feels and all of the happy and all of the laughs and all of the giggles that I feel like I would get out of a Garbage Pail Kids tarot, but like better, because really Garbage Pail Kids was not my vibe growing up. So like, why would I make it my vibe now? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's a thing. But I have Tarot of Curious Creatures, so I definitely don't need to pick up the Garbage Pail Kids. But I will point out there are some walkthroughs out there on YouTube about it. Go check it out. But I just don't think I would use it. I think that's really where I landed with it. So that is it for the mass market decks that really tempted me since my last anti-haul, but there are a couple of indie decks that tempted me, so let's talk about those. The first of these, and oh my gosh, did this tempt me so much, the Serpent Fire Tarot. Is it not, like, just beautiful? Like, is it not beautiful? And I feel like I keep getting tempted by decks from this creator in general. Like, this is one of those situations, though, where it's like the me that I kind of wish I was loves this deck, and in theory, I like it. Like, I like the vibrancy of it. I like the collaginess of it. I like that it feels transportive, like it would take me to another world. But this is another deck that I feel like is speaking to somebody else, kind of like that Weaver's Oracle. I feel like it's meant for someone else. Like, I feel like it's not speaking my language to me, if that makes any sense. So as tempted as I have been, and I wobbled about this one so much. I was like, do I want this? Will I use it? Like, I could picture myself using it, like in that daydreamy kind of way, but not in an actual, like, I've just got a reading to do for a client and I'm going to reach for a deck. What am I going to pull for? I would never pull that deck. So I'm like, okay, that's telling. And there are decks that I have that I love using for myself that I don't use for client work, but I just didn't feel like this was one that was going to call to me in that way. And so I thought about what I have in my collection that could maybe fit the bill, scratch the itch, remind me of what I have, you know, enjoy what I have instead of buying more. And I figured it out. It wasn't that hard. It's the Moonchild Tarot. So the Moonchild Tarot has a lot of the same kind of vibes. It's got that beautiful, like, otherworldly collage, but I love this deck, and this deck has stood the test of time in my collection. It has held up through numerous other decks have come in, and I have had no desire ever to move this one out, which tells me that it's meant for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, it speaks my speak. I love the guidebook. I love the artwork. It doesn't have the same vibe exactly as the Serpent Fire, but you can probably see how there are some similarities in the energetic qualities of this deck. And so because I have this, and I mean, oh, look at this card, the Ten of Pentacles. It's beautiful, right? So if I need a little taste of that, if I need to sip on some of that daydreamy quality, I have it right here. And I do actually enjoy using this deck for pulling cards for the moons. And so it has a space in my collection. It has a purpose. And so this one gets a lot more use than I feel like the Serpent Fire would get in my collection. And for that reason, there's no point in bringing in something that I know I'm going to hang up on my rack and it's going to sit on my decks to be worked with until I get just bored enough and just curious enough to try it. Like, it's just not exciting me to that degree that something like this would. So that told me what I needed to know. The next indie deck that really, really tempted me is the For Hoxa Tarot. Okay, so the story here is I did an episode of Say Yes to the Deck where my channel members, the Unicorn Fam, actually suggested decks that they wanted to be sort of shortlisted, and then Peggy picked my deck for me. The Four Hoxa was supposed to be on that list, and I wonder if it had been on that list, if it would have won, because I have such intense curiosity about it. And in that context, I might have given myself permission to scoop it up without thinking about it quite as much. But the deck that ended up winning in that Say Yes to the Deck was a different deck. Go watch the episode. I'll link it. I think it's going to be in the cards up there. I'll link it up in the cards, up in the corner for you. But, so go check it out. You can see which one actually I got. But I'm really happy with the one that I got. And I think that if I had gotten this one, it might not have done the job for me as much as I want it. Again, I don't think it's like the Serpent Fire. I think I actually legitimately kind of want it. And I think I still have that curiosity about it. It's got this wildness to it and this fey quality to it that I find really attractive. And I like this sort of lushness of the environment that the artwork takes place in. All of that is really enticing to me. But when it comes to this deck, and what I've heard people talk about is that it feels very fey. And I have a couple decks that I'm very, very bonded to that feel fey. And for that reason, I feel like this is not one that I need. It's not like this is a gaping hole in my collection that I desperately need to fill. And it is quite a pricey deck. I feel like if this one gets scooped up mass market, there's a chance I'll end up with it just to try it. But right now, at indie prices with international shipping and exchange and all that kind of thing, I feel like I have things right now that work and that do a really good job at connecting me to that part of the world, the Fey realms, and I feel like I have that, so I don't need this as a tool to get me there, if that makes any sense. And so the thing for my collection that fits the bill is the Tarot of the She, and I'm sure this comes as no surprise because I talk about this all the time. This is such a wonderful deck. It's one of the decks that I feel like I wouldn't have thought looking at the artwork that it would have screamed Fae to me, but it really, really does. And the more that I work with it, the more Fae it feels. It's got that wildness and that ferocity that I associate with the Fae. And there's a lot of beautiful artwork in here. I don't know how to quite describe my relationship with it besides to say that it's just wild and otherworldly in all the ways that I want the Fae to be. It doesn't feel like the fairy that's lurking around the corner. It feels like the Fae, when you hear about people going to like the Fae realm, that's what this feels like to me. It feels like the Fae realm. And there's a lot of wisdom here and depth, and it almost feels kind of cronish. It feels like wise, like a crone deck would feel. And I just really, really, really love it and really enjoy working with it. I'm a little tempted to purchase another copy of this deck because I saw Dawn Michelle at Boho Tarot do a new mod on a second copy that she got where she kept like a micro border around the edges, and it looks so good. And I'm like, do I want it to remod? Maybe. I might, because I really love this deck and it gets a ton of use. So like, why not remod it? Maybe. Could be a project. So that brings us to decks I'm not going to pre-order. And a lot of these, I sort of work out my process. When it comes to pre-ordering decks, I talk about my thoughts on a lot of these during my hot takes. But I do my hot takes videos the month that decks are coming out, basically. And this one is up for pre-order now, but it isn't coming out for a long, long time. I think the date actually got pushed out. I think it was supposed to be sometime this year, and it ended up getting pushed out to spring next year. And I'm really thankful that it did, because I was really excited about it, and I've since realized it's not for me, and that is the Cozy Witch Tarot. So the thing with this deck, I freaking love Amanda Lovelace's artwork, and I was really excited when Believe in Your Own Magic, the Oracle deck by Amanda Lovelace, came out. I hung it on my wall. I used it for some body image work. I definitely love and appreciate all the size, like plus size curvy women, girls, I guess I should say, because that's part of the thing in that deck, but it does lean very young. And I found when I went to go actually do deep personal work with the deck that it always felt a little bit like it was giving me a pep talk. I talked about this recently. Actually, I talked about it in my last This or That declutter, because it did come up in that video. And I ended up decluttering the Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle because it just felt a little bit young and a little bit like it was trying to lift me up out of a dark place, which would be really useful if that was where I was, or if I was struggling with that more often than I do. I'm in a really good place in my life. I'm really, really happy, and I feel really strong in my self-worth journey in general. This is a deck that would have been incredible for me when I was 25, when I was 29, when I was 33 even. You know what I mean? Like, there was a range of time when I was deep in the muck of the self-worth work, and a deck like that would have been astounding at that time. but it doesn't speak to me now. I'm moving into a different phase of life where I'm looking for more of that sort of cronish wisdom, or that more, I'm looking for sure, I'm looking for more age diversity in the decks that I want to lift me up. And that one just started to feel like it was talking to a younger me, which in that sense, it would be an excellent deck for sort of like inner teenage work, that sort of thing. And Cozy Witch Tarot has the same vibe. Of course, it's going to have that same feeling to me now looking at it. And so I'm going to wait till it comes out. There is a chance that it could turn out to be more than I'm imagining, but there are some things about it. There's some things about the way it's put together, and there's like keywords and things on the cards that I'm not vibing with what I'm seeing right now in the preview images. And when I first got excited about it, all I was seeing was the art, not any of like the production stuff. And I just don't think the way that it's being put together is going to work for me personally. But I'm still excited that it exists, or going to be existing, and I think it's going to do very well, and I think there's a ton of people it's going to speak to, just like the believe in your own magic. It just so happens that I'm not in that phase of my life right now, and maybe I'll feel differently when it's out, but for now, it's definitely not going to work. That being said, I do have a fun sort of kitschy witchy tarot that I feel like definitely scratches the itch, although I wouldn't say it feels any older. It is a deck I'm much more bonded to, and so I'm going to continue to enjoy and love it. And that is the Everyday Witch Tarot. I really have loved this deck since I got it. I have never wait a minute. I grabbed the wrong deck, y'all. In my defense, I accidentally grabbed the Witchling Academy Tarot because it's in this bag. Because they're from the same fabric collection, these two bags, but this is the deck I meant to grab. This is my Everyday Witch. Witchling Academy is also delightful and very young, and yet somehow works for me. Don't ask me all about that. But anyway, Everyday Witch Tarot is an oldie but a goodie, and it's not even that old, but it's a delightful deck. I love Deborah Blake's writing. I had already discovered Deborah Blake as an author before this deck came out, and Elizabeth Alba's artwork is absolutely charming and delightful, and this has a lot of that sort of kitschy, witchy, I keep calling it the same thing, but that's how it feels to me. A little bit like fun, pointy hats and striped stockings, and I love that about that. And I get a little bit of that from Amanda Lovelace's decks too, but this one I feel like just has the depth that I'm looking for, and it doesn't have a bunch of titles, not titles, but like phrases or keywords on the cards that could interfere with the way that I read the tarot, which is an important consideration. Sometimes keywords are wonderful, and sometimes keywords clash. And this one doesn't have those, so I don't have to worry about it. And it reads like a dream. It is an amazing reader, and I've always enjoyed working with it. So that is the Everyday Witch Tarot, which I still highly recommend. A wonderful beginner deck if you're ever looking for a beginner deck. The guidebook's wonderful. It's good. This is like classic Llewellyn goodness, you know? Like when Llewellyn just like knocks it out of the park, and this is definitely one of them. Love it. So that is it for decks that I was like really wobbling, considering, and tempted to pre-order, and have since talked myself out of. Let's talk now about a few Kickstarter campaigns that were really tempting me and that I didn't back. The first, or actually I guess it's kind of in reverse order, like the most recent one that was really tempting me, you probably saw me struggling with it quite a bit actually on my last hot takes video, is the Beautiful Beasts Tarot on Kickstarter. I don't know where the funding is at actually. I haven't looked recently, but it's so cool and so pretty, and I feel like when it comes out, my whole opinion on this might change. We will see. But I was really tempted because it's so different. Beautiful Beasts zooms you in on these creatures, on these animals, and then overlays this beautiful imagery on it, and you get the tarot tied to animal energy in a completely unique and innovative way that really excites me. And I think that's something that I have to be mindful of when I'm looking at tarot and oracle decks and I'm considering whether I want to purchase something that is bound to sort of push all of the temptation buttons for me, is seeing something that is done in a way I've never seen it done before. Because I feel like at this point in tarot and oracle, we've seen a lot of things. So anything innovative has a tendency to catch my attention. Anything that feels like it's really outside the box, especially in a way that changes our perspective, and this does that. It definitely changes the perspective, and I think it could allow people who maybe otherwise aren't connected to, or don't have a hard time maybe connecting to animal decks, to connect to them in a different way, which could be really cool. And I say that as somebody who sometimes struggles with animal decks, and I was really excited. The only thing at this point I feel like that held me back initially, which I mentioned in my hot takes video, is that a lot of the artwork isn't complete right now, so it's probably going to be a long wait for the deck. And with that in mind, I was like, okay, slow your roll. Like, other than the fact that it's innovative and it's really exciting because it's innovative, do I see myself working with it? And I kind of had to talk myself down off the ledge. I think it's likely that even when this comes out, I probably won't purchase it. But it has my attention in the sense that I want to see how it develops as a project. Do you know what I mean? I want to see how it goes. Like I want to kind of follow along and watch the journey and see if anything sort of shifts and I decide to really just, you know, jump off the ledge and try it anyways. But at this point, I've talked myself well and thoroughly out of it. Not just the Kickstarter, but the deck in general. And I think that's because I have quite a few. I'm like looking up at the corner of my racks where they're all hanging. I have quite a few animal decks, and they aren't often the very first things I think to reach for. And a lot of them are decks that I really love the fact that I'm having an opportunity to get to know. And the more that I put into a single category, and I feel like in animal decks, I have quite a few in that category, the more that I sort of smush into a single category, the less everything gets use, right? So right now I have like, let me think. I have like 3 sort of general animal decks. And then I have a couple very specific animal decks. Like I have a panda deck and a fox deck and you know what I mean? Like I have those kinds of things. But I only have a few very general animal decks, which this beautiful beast would have fallen into. And there's one in my collection, as far as general animal decks go, that I definitely want to continue to work with and bond with. And I think it could clash or interfere. It would be interfered with if I brought beautiful beasts in. That's what I'm trying to say. And that is the Brady Tarot. So I've had the Brady for a long time, and I actually repurchased it. I had the original first edition, which was smaller and had white borders on the edges. And then I picked up this later edition. There's a part of me that kind of wonders if I should have kept the original, because the original cardstock was easier to shuffle because it was smaller. But I do like that the artwork is bigger and it's easier for me to see the details in this newer edition. And I love that there's no white borders. It's just wonderful. I love it. I actually was working with this in this month. Actually, I just came off of a week working with it, and I had a really, really wonderful time. And one of the things that I love about this deck, not only is the artwork done in this fantastic lino cut, it's incredible the amount of work and labor that went into creating this deck. I love the keywords. I love that it feels very raw nature. I call this my National Geographic deck, because as animal decks go, a lot of animal decks take this kind of gentle, soft approach, and the Brady Tarot is like, no, let's throw you like headfirst into nature and then just deal with it. Like you do get the highs, but you also get the lows, and they're done very skillfully in this deck. So when it comes to, and I learn a lot. This is the other thing that I love about this. When I call it my National Geographic, it's not just because of this incredible artwork and themes and how well done it is, but because the guidebook is packed. The guidebook is actually by Rachel Pollack, and it is packed full of information about the animals, about the cultures where these animals have sort of that are impacted by these animals. There's a lot of information in here about different native peoples and their relationship with particular animals. I just feel like I get so much out of this. There's nothing shallow about this deck, which is not to say that there's anything shallow at all about Beautiful Beasts. I don't know. I don't know how that one's going to come out as far as guidebook, but like Rachel Pollack, I don't know what to say. I really enjoy Rachel Pollack's wisdom and knowledge in the cards, and the Brady Tarot is such a treasure, and I feel like the art is incredible and so well thought out, and the guidebook is so incredible and so well done, and I learned so much from it that this just feels really unique and special, and I don't need things that are going to compete head to head with something I love so much. So yeah, I don't need the Beautiful Beast, so I've talked myself out of it. But I'm going to keep my eye on it. So it is one that I feel like I could potentially wobble on in the future if there's enough innovation to sort of push me over the, over the edge. Whatever this is, I do this all the time, but whatever that is, that moment, that roller coaster moment where you go plunging down and you're like, I'm going to get it. But I'm not there, and I've talked myself out of it for the time being. The next deck that I've talked myself out of, and I actually had backed this and then I backed out of it. I was very proud of myself because it's adorable, and that is the 8-Bit Fantasy Tarot. Hello? Is it not the cutest, most adorable thing? And part of my temptation about this is that it came in both a standard and like a mini size, and it's already a mini deck. Like it's already small, but then it had an extra mini version of itself that you could back. And so I was like, well, I'll get the regular version for myself, and I'll get the little teeny pocket one, like the little teeny one for Peggy, because she loves tiny decks. Like that's her weakness, right? Tiny decks are her thing. And so I had actually backed it, and I think I showed that I had backed it in my hot takes. And then I got thinking about it, and I was like, Lisa, this is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. How do we feel about Rider-Waite-Smith clones? Because the reality is, and I've talked about this a lot, I don't use those. I have a unicorn Rider-Waite-Smith clone that I have to remind myself to use despite loving everything about it, but it's a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. And whenever I see let me clarify. Different people have different definitions for Rider-Waite-Smith clone. What I mean by Rider-Waite-Smith clone is when a deck can have completely redrawn artwork and even a different like different protagonists, like in the case of the Crystal Unicorn Tarot, which in my opinion is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. They're unicorns. They're not people. They're unicorns, but they're all in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith style scenes. So the scenes are identical. So the art isn't really going its own way other than that. Maybe the colors are different. It's redrawn, but it's the same essential scene in every single card. Now, I love decks that are heavily Rider-Waite-Smith based, where I can see and feel the Rider-Waite-Smith meaning. I could imagine that the characters in that scene being in a similar scene, maybe as the Rider-Waite-Smith, but the artwork is different. That's the dividing line for me between, you know, a Rider-Waite-Smith based deck and like a Rider-Waite-Smith clone deck. And to me, the 8-Bit Fantasy Tarot is clearly intended to be a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, very, very close to the original, just in an 8-bit art style. So I had a conversation with myself and I said, Lisa, are you going to use this or do you just want it because it's cute? And I'm like, well, I want it because it's cute. And also so I could have a matchy-matchy deck with Peggy. And I'm like, do we need a matchy-matchy deck with Peggy? No, we don't. No, we don't. We live in the same house. We do not need to have matchy-matchy decks. That's ridiculous. I mean, it'd be fun, but it's not necessary. Would I be like ashamed of myself if I got a matchy-matchy deck with Peggy? No, of course not. Actually, we do have a matchy-matchy deck because we both have the Smoke, Ash, and Embers because she has the prototype that I was sent and I have the original, which is, so we have one. We have one matchy-matchy deck. It's fine. Anyway, but I did get her the 8-Bit Fantasy Tarot, and this is the little mini, and it came in, and it's the cutest. Look at how little it is. It made her so happy when it came in. But here's what happened. So Peggy gets this in. She loves this. Don't get me wrong. It's super cute. Let me show you a few of the cards because I haven't done that yet. It's so freaking cute. She's like, can I shuffle it or do you need it for a video? I'm like, it's fine. I'm going to show it. We can show it all shuffled up. It's so cute and it's so tiny and it's like all the video game, like Game Boy vibes for sure. I freaking love it. Anyways, so she gets this. She's so excited. But in the package along with this little micro deck was a full set of 78 little tiny stickers with the entire deck on it. So a single sticker for every card. So 78 stickers. She lost her damn mind because these are small, but of course the stickers are like they would probably take up about the size of this little plus button on this little Game Boy kind of situation. She lost her mind over the stickers. I'm like, well, are you going to cut them out and like put them on like little pieces of cardboard and have like a super teeny tiny micro deck? And she's like, I'm probably not even going to cut them out, but they're so tiny. And she was so excited. So the free add-on was more exciting to her than the deck. She still likes the deck. She still loves it. But it was really, really entertaining to see her go gaga over the little stickers. Anyway, so I did not get this for me. Seeing it in person, I'm really glad I didn't. It's super adorable, but I would have never, ever used it. The slightly bigger one is more usable than this little teeny tiny one because it's such a handful to shuffle. And the slightly bigger one was actually on linen cardstock, which is exciting. It's super cute. I'm so glad that it got funded and it became a thing and that Peggy now has one, but I don't need it. So I asked myself, do I have a Rider-Waite-Smith clone that I can use that's travelable, that's small, that's pocket? I do. I have the Radiant Wise, the Universal Weight, I forgot the name of it, Tarot in a Tin. I have this because of you guys. I don't know if I reported back, but I was doing a video and I was talking about how much I love the DeBrigg original Rider-Waite-Smith because I love how bright and bold and clean the colors and lines all are. And that I wanted something like that, but in a tin version to replace my Centennial, which I think I still have my Centennial. I haven't parted with it yet, but I probably will at one point. A bunch of you were like, you want what you've just described is the Universal Weight Tarot in a tin. And so I picked it up on a whim. I was like, it's cheap. And it came in and it is so cute. It is literally like, it is as clone-ish as it gets. It looks just like a regular Rider-Waite-Smith. It's all the original line work, but it's been recolored by, who is this? I should have known. I know it. Mary Hanson Roberts, who also has the Hanson Roberts tarot deck, obviously, which I love the Hanson Roberts tarot. I don't like all the big banners on it. If it ever came out like without all those big banners, I'd probably scoop it up. But this is such a great, colorful little Rider-Waite-Smith. So if I am wanting a little travelable, adorable little Rider-Waite-Smith, I have one. I don't need to get the 8-bit tarot. So this scratches the itch. I don't think I really needed to convince myself too hard that I did need the 8-bit fantasy. Once I really thought about it, I was like, yeah. So I didn't get it, but Peggy has it. So if I ever get the itch to like play with a little 8-bit deck, I can go get hers. It's fine. This last one, I struggled so much. I think you all saw me struggling in a hot takes video on this. The completionist part of me wants this because I want Peggy to want this, which I've talked about. It is the Cute and Creepy Oracle. Peggy has the Cute and Creepy Tarot, and I want her to want the Cute and Creepy Oracle because I think it's such a great combination. And to be fair, I had this exact same reaction about the Cute and Creepy Tarot. When Peggy got the Cute and Creepy Tarot, I was like, do I also need it? Should I also get a copy? Because I really like it. And then I'm like, well, I can always borrow hers. And hers, she's had this entire time, like for like what now? Gosh. She ended up getting it in a Helping You Say Yes to the Deck where we were supposed to help other people get tarot, and then Peggy got a tarot. How did that work again? Yeah. So she ended up with it, and I've never once borrowed it. And I don't know if that's because I see it as hers now, or if because I'm really just not, I feel like if I was enthused enough about it, like excited enough about it, I'd be like, hey, can I borrow it? Can I borrow it? But I haven't. So there's that. But I'm still utterly charmed by it. And the Oracle looks really, really good. It has a ton of cards. I love the keywords. I love the art and the keyword combination. I feel like this is definitely one I could see myself caving on someday. Maybe. But I don't have the tarot, and I feel like I'd want to work with them together. But then if I had both, then I'd only work with them together because that's a different kind of problem. Do you guys see where I'm going with this? So I really like it all on its own merit, but then I don't know what I would pair it with. And with Oracle decks, I usually do pair them with something. So that's a thing. I feel like there were so many different places my brain could go in this, and eventually I just realized I don't need it. I don't need it. I may or may not use it. Probably wouldn't use it as much as I imagine myself using it. So I didn't get it. But it was painful. And there was a lot of back and forth. There was a lot of, like when I talk wobble, this was my wobbliest probably of this entire video. I really, really wanted it for a bit. And then I was like, you know, I'm currently really feeling picky about my Oracle decks. I feel like I'm being especially quick to declutter them or to feel like I have too many. It's just a category where I feel like I don't need that much because I have some that are just so astoundingly good that I just reach for them primarily. And so that alone makes me hesitant to get any new Oracle decks. There's just a whole bunch of stuff in my brain about it. So I decided not to get Cute and Creepy, but I have a little secret pre-reveal for you guys. And I have an entire video coming out on this deck. This is a prototype. And this has literally scratched the itch for me for needing the Cute and Creepy. Don't ask me why. I mean, I guess I can try to explain. But this one has that same sort of otherworldly kind of fun but also cute quality to it. I guess it is kind of cute and creepy if you think about it. But anyways, okay, I'm going to show it to you. It's the Little Cryptid Oracle. You guys, okay, so the Kickstarter is going to be launching for this, I believe, on September 1st. I will try to remember to have the pre-launch Kickstarter link down below, but oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm going to sneak peek you some cards. This is just a prototype, so this tin is not what the final tin will look like. The cards aren't they're on a different card stock. You know the drill, right? This one's been shuffled because I've already filmed my other video. I'm still editing and going through the process to get it ready. That video is coming out in a week or two, but for now, just take a little gander. Just a couple little sneak peeks for you. I'm not going to go through all the cards, but they are so stinking cute. They are cryptids and there are keywords, and it's so stinking adorable. This has charmed the ever-loving pants off of me. It is so freaking cute. Just wait for my whole video. Just trust me. It's going to be good. So this is launching on Kickstarter, but I do have a prototype, and getting this completely, like, it eased the wound. It eased all of the feelings I was having about wanting the Cute and Creepy Oracle, but knowing I probably wouldn't work with it, because this, I can literally picture myself pairing this with things. I don't know why I can picture it with this deck, and I had a hard time picturing it with Cute and Creepy, and I think it's because the art's a little soft on this. It's adorable, but it's also got useful keywords, which the other one did, but this doesn't feel so, how do I describe it? It doesn't feel like it has so specific of an aesthetic, of a look, that I feel like it could only pair with something that's matched to it. Does that make sense? I feel like I can pair this with a lot of things. And I think it's the watercolor. I have a fondness for watercolor for sure. So I think that's part of it, is like I feel like I can pair it with more things. And it's not trying to be dark. It's just kind of mythological and like fable-y and like, you know, like Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and like fun things like that. This thing is so cute. So watch my full video to come out on that. Hey, I get to be back in the middle again and no more photos. So that, my friends, are all the things that I'm not going to buy, that I didn't back on Kickstarter, that I decided to let go of. I hope that this content, the main reason I'm so passionate about making these and doing my hot takes and my this or that declutters and all of that is because I like to create balanced content. I like to create videos about tarot and oracle I love bringing in new things and reviewing new things, and I still do some of that. But I like to balance it out with videos about I don't need that thing. Here's how I can enjoy what I have, and here's how I can make the most of things without having to have every bright and shiny new thing that comes out. And I recognize that some of you will watch this video and be like, I haven't heard of that, I'm buying that, I'm buying that, I'm buying that, I'm buying that, and that's completely fine. There is zero judgment. This is a judgment-free space. I want us all to find and have and use the things that we love. I personally find for myself that I need to strike a balance between the new and shiny, exciting things and kind of bringing new things in, and also loving what I have and rediscovering what I have. And what I love about making this video is it helps me to look at my collection in a different way, to think about something I'm kind of tempted by, and then think of something that actually I already have that kind of does that job for me or can fill that space. And that's been really useful. And sometimes I kind of rediscover things for my own collection by making this video, and that's really helpful too. So I definitely encourage you, if you have a large collection like I do, to do this exercise every once in a while. When you find yourself tempted by something new, think about if you couldn't get it, just for the sake of the fun of it. If you couldn't get it, or you decided not to get it, what do you have that could do that job for you, or could you rediscover that could scratch that itch for you? And maybe work with it for a couple of days and see, does it actually, or like, do you still want the other thing? And like, you don't have to do that, but if it sounds like fun, it could be an interesting way to get to know the things you have a little bit differently or a little bit better. And that's always fun for me because I want to treasure and use and love the things that I have. And there are things I have that I don't use all that often and I still love just as much. So yeah, there's room for all parts of the conversation, in the conversation. There's room for all viewpoints, but I really like making content that kind of looks at it from various angles and lets me continue to enjoy what I have and not always just leap for the new shiny thing. And that's really helpful to me personally. So I hope it's helpful to you guys too. As always, thank you so much for watching. An extra big thank you goes out to the Unicorn Fam, my channel membership. You guys really help me do what I do here, and it means so much. I cannot say it enough. And to all of you watching this video, I appreciate you all. I appreciate your likes and your comments and your subscribes. The fact that you're here just watching means a lot, and I just am so thankful. So thank you for hanging out with me. I'm wishing you all the very best of days, and may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye!